Okay, so again, I don't know why, for some reason it did that, so I started over with recording. All right, so it is C because complete sentence. You can't use a semicolon before housing. It's going to make a fragment. This is going to be too wordy. And so I just crossed that one out. And then no change because you have to have a verb, which leaves us with a C. All right, number 32. Looking at my choices, I know it's looking for transitions. Remember the expert. He told us that they basically tested the same transition words over and over again. Okay, so when we look at although, which fanboy conjunction is although? Those are the, is it? Okay. Most commonly tested transition words. If you know which fanboy that kind of corresponds to, you can substitute that in your sentence and figure out which one's right. Okay. For thousands of years, but people worship the gods and goddesses of Roman mythology. Okay. That is kind of contradicting, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to cross out G and H. Now the question is semicolons. This is one of those testing two things at once. I'm going to cross this out because a semicolon never goes after however. It always goes before. And so that's going to leave us with F. Okay. Now, however, actually any of these, always going to have two punctuation marks. It's either going to be semicolon and then comma or comma, comma. If it is a dependent clause, and then the other half of, well, I guess that's not the best way to say it. If this interrupts a thought, it's comma, comma. If this is an independent clause and an independent clause, it's going to be semicolon, comma. Number 33. All right, I see semicolon, comma, and nothing. So I'm going to read this sentence and see if there is a complete sentence there. Because I know a semicolon can only be used with a complete sentence. Rome today, oops, I'm sorry, I'm on number 33. Through their worship, the Romans were able to make sense of the world around them and build the unique culture. That is, I'm missing something, so it's not a complete sentence, so we're going to cross that out. Build the unique culture, the Roman Empire. No, there's something missing. I've got to have a transition word, so no change. Unique culture, the Roman Empire. No, okay, because after the comma, it's just the Roman Empire, okay? If you used a colon, maybe if they'd added something before that because it's explaining it, but that's not an option, so we're going to cross that out. So you have to add of, so it makes sense, which is why I said you had to add something to it. And then you've got culture of the Roman Empire. All right, looking at our answer choices, I'm looking for probably introductory phrases because it's got comma, comma, and then it's got switching it. Rome today. All right, I know that this can be done two ways. Rome, comma, today, comma. Okay. I don't need the word today, do I? That's not one of my choices. Today has a comma before it, and in this one it has it after it, but neither one of them have two, so I got to cross those out. In my original one, there's no comma at all, so it's gone. That leaves me with J. What they've done is they've turned it into an introductory phrase. Okay. Today is either introductory phrase, correct answer, or an interrupter. But our answer choices that are correct, the interrupter's punctuated incorrectly. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's what they're going to do. There's different ways you can word a sentence. Which one is correct? Let's see. 35 is bigger on this slide, so I will do it on this one. All right, I'm looking for commas and this. Okay. Well, I know a comma never goes before the word that, so it's gone. It's always comma which. That does not have a comma. Rome today still has roots in these traditional values as evidenced. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to cross out A. And that's a strategy too. You guys are better readers than you think you are. If you're reading something and you go, what? And you have to stop and back up and read it more slow, or kind of think about it, something's wrong with it. You guys have said that numerous times. Ms. Smith, this doesn't make sense. Well, then it's wrong. Okay? And that's exactly what I just did. I was reading it and going, what? It's not, no change, it's wrong. Okay? I don't need to figure out why. Okay? This is not Ms. Smith's class where you have to explain your answer. That's wrong, move on. All right, so that leaves us with B and D. When I look at those, I notice that it's values, same as, so I'm looking for evidenced versus evidence. That's what I need to figure out what it is. Okay, that's one reason why you want to eliminate. What's the difference between them? Now, for me, I know that it's not going to be evidence because this is not a crime that they're giving you evidence for. Okay, so I'm going to cross that out. I want the verb form of evidenced. Okay. Okay, with this one, I'm looking for commas, semicolons, and with after. I'm going to cross out the semicolon. Semicolons are used for two complete sentences, so you're not going to put a preposition after it. That leaves me with the remaining ones. Let's see. The Reformation of Rome from the ancient Roman religion to Christianity happened with only a few generations, with or without. Okay, well, F is still a maybe. I need to think about it. It's not going to be with, comma, or without. Without is not in a positive. If you have with, you also need the without part. So we're going to cross that one out. So now I'm going to read the rest of the sentence and figure out, do I need a comma or not? With or without the consent of the Roman public. Okay, so what I just did when I said, hey, I disagree with this, I read with or without the consent and I stopped. Because to me, it was like, okay, I know what the rest of the sentence is. I'm good enough to answer it. The problem is that I actually needed without the consent of the Roman public in order to determine whether or not that was a positive. And the whole part of the end is information that I don't need. And so I've got to put that comma before it, which is why the answer is G. Okay, the next one. Looking at the answer choices, I know that I'm going to actually have to read it. Now this ties back into what I said earlier. If you use my strategy of only answering the questions that you don't have to read the passage for, you are going to miss some. For some of you, that's a good strategy because you're only getting to numbers 15 and 20 on the ACT because you're being so careful to get the right answer. Okay? And getting done with the test rather than getting to number 20, your score is going to be higher. We haven't read this passage, so you know that unless you get lucky, you're going to miss this one unless you go back and read. Okay? And it's your choice as to which strategy you want to do. But the strategy that I've been showing you, I need you to know that that will only get you 7 out of 10 correct. Okay? It won't get you all of them because 7 out of 10 times the strategy is good, but the other 30% it is not. Okay? So, looking at number 37, okay, it says the writer is thinking about removing the following information. Put that on there. If you delete this, how does it affect the essay? Well, I see a date. Okay, so I'm going to look down and it says, well, it's a historical one, so it's got to have some effect, history or its dates. And then irrelevant, well, emperor, that, so I'm going to need, it's not irrelevant. Lose the writer's opinion, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. So historical context is what it would lose. Okay, so now we're looking at 38. I know that it's looking for possession. And I know that a singular word is apostrophe S, and a plural word that shows possession is S apostrophe. Okay, so let's look at our underlined part. You need to ask yourself, is this possessive? Particularly the senatorial elites protested, wait a minute, that's not possessive. So there you go. Now you just have to ask yourself, is it singular or plural? Okay, and then elites is plural, elite is singular, and you've got many up here, so you want plural. You could also look at the use of semicolon right there to help you eliminate answers, because you know semicolons, 2 complete sentences only. Okay. All right, number 39. I know that I am looking for wordiness, possibly commas. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cross out these 2 because they way too much. Okay, just looking at the answers, pagan and non-Christian is the same thing, so they're gone. I look at A, what's underlined, it's the same thing, so it's D. I'm not reading the sentence, I'm moving on. Okay, again, that strategy works on that one, so we're good. Number 40, looking at the answer choices, I've got no punctuation, I've got a semicolon, I've got comma many. More than likely, it's looking at combining sentences, so I'm going to read this, trying to figure out if the first one is an independent clause. While, it's not, okay? Because while is a dependent clause, it starts with a dependent clause, so I'm going to cross out H. While Christianity was sweeping across the nation, well, that's the end of my clause, so it's J. Choose it and move on, okay? All right, 41. It looks like I'm looking for combining sentences. This is one of those where if you're just looking for the shorter answer, you would get this one wrong because you can tell from the right answer that's already circled that the right answer is longer. But I actually would not have applied that strategy to this one because when I'm looking at short versus long, I noticed that you've also got a comma coming into play here. So in my mind, it's not looking for wordiness or the short answer. All right, so going back up here. At the underlined part, it's not going to use a semicolon before the word but, so that's gone. Now I'm going to read the sentence. While Christianity was sweeping across the nation, many Romans were asking not only for more respect for traditional altars, but, right, not only, and then but, that is showing a relationship right there. And so you need the transition words that deal with that. The actual transition, it's not only, but also. Okay. And when you look at your answer choice, it splits up also. This is the transition right here. It's not only, but also. Okay. If you have not only, you have to have but also. You cannot have a word between those, and you'll have one of those on the ACT. They love that one because kids look at that and they go, but is shorter, so let's choose that one, or D may sound better to some of you. It has to be, the correct transition is not only but also. You have those in the same sentence. Right. Okay, I'm looking for transition words in my mind. I'm looking at what these really mean. So is it a contradiction? Is it cause effect? Or is it showing a relationship? So hence, There's not a contradiction. Okay. Therefore, it's not a conclusion. Hence is just like therefore, so you can't have two right answers, and then although, okay, which is an introductory phrase. Okay. This one's kind of hard to see. You may need to look at this one in your book to get this one. So for 43, the sentence begins with although. You know that although is going to start a dependent clause, and so you have to find where the comma goes, the end of that clause, which is after later, and you can't see it, but there is a comma there, so it would be no change. I would have automatically crossed out C when I saw the sentence begin with although, because you can't have a semicolon with a fragment. And then 44 is was, and I'm looking at my answer choices. I'm going to cross out H, it's too long, and that leaves me with was, were, and is, and I know that it's looking for a singular or a plural, and so I look at my sentence, and I go, what is my subject? Well, my subject is protests. Protests is plural, so I need a plural verb. And again, this is one of those, we didn't read the whole passage, so we're going to struggle, hope we get lucky. The essay, it says, suppose the writer intended to write on the history of ancient Roman mythology. Would this essay fulfill her intentions? Okay. If you had read it, the author would have had to have described Roman mythology and not just mention it, which is what happened. The author just wrote about the conversion in ancient Rome from paganism to Christianity, so it doesn't fit. Okay.